Good morning, everybody. This is Riot Mort, and this is Walk the Dog, and it's Monday at about 6:30 a.m. And yes, I'm on Riot summer break. And yes, even when I'm on summer break and I'm on vacation, I get up at 6 in the morning and I go on my walk. So I'm a creature of habit. What can I say? No rest for the wicked or something. I don't know. What a weekend. It was a pretty good weekend. Okay, let's talk about the big story first, right? Like, regionals happened, and we decided all of our world's winners, or world's people. Regionals, definitely wish it would be, 14-7 ended up being a little worse than 6, and I think worse than 8, or whatever patch numbers we're on right now. Sorry, I'm losing track. But basically, the regionals patch was like worse than the one before it and the one after it, which is really unfortunate. But overall, though, it was still an enjoyable event to watch. Definitely some really tight games. Highlight for me was the game where Dish Soap won. Dish Soap ended up winning the game, but there were 7 people alive on 6-1, and it could have gone any way because it was just so damn close. Which goes to show you the the skill going on. But 2 major stories that I saw being talked about. The first one is that, like, the reps sending NA are really, really big, which are, what was it? It was, it was Dish Soap, Wacian Iverson, and Setsuko from NA. That's quite the group. They have definitely some high skill here. So NA is sending some pretty big players. Dehua also played out of his mind, played really, really well with his Lost Streak style. I worry his style is going to get punished at Worlds pretty hard, but we'll see. But for a lot of the NA focus people, there was one bigger story that I didn't get to see talked about much that I thought was much more impressive, and that was Volterix from EU. Volterix winning regionals and making it to like his 7th Worlds or something. That dude's a beast. That dude is crushing it, and he always like makes final lobby. Like, that guy is really, really. It's funny because history only remembers the people who went first, and so he's gonna have to win one before he really becomes part of that major conversation. But from a pure consistency point, how we always talk about like TFT is about getting a bunch of top 4s and like being consistent. That dude's figured out this game. That dude is consistent. So I don't know. I feel like that's a major story worth talking about. And real talk, I mean, I didn't watch everything, I did not watch every game from start to finish. I don't have that kind of time. But that's the kind of cool thing. So yeah, so now everyone gets to like read the patch notes and start playing the live patch and get ready for Worlds and stuff like that, or people are on their breaks or whatever. Plus now we have our pro circuit people all decided, so that'll be neat. Cool stuff. So let's see, what else this weekend? Oh yeah, my wife was sick the entire weekend, so that wasn't great. I got to make a lot of meals. Not very good meals, but I did make nachos, so I had that going for me. Now my daughter's sick. She got sick as of yesterday afternoon, so she's out of commission now. So there went my plans to teach her driving today. So now I got no plans today. I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, everything I need to do, I did. Did all the magic card stuff I wanted to do. I'm playing some Commander with people tomorrow. That'll be fun. There's no work stuff I need to do because I'm literally transitioning between assignments right now. I guess I still need to do the PBE, Set 15 PBE rundown slides, but I don't want to do those right now. So yeah, I don't know. I'll figure something out. Oh, maybe I can hook up my Switch too. So anyway, yeah, that's the major stuff. Questions today. There's some harder questions today. Today's were not the easiest, but I wrote down a bunch of them. So there's 2 questions right now, by the way, that I'm delayed in answering. because they require me to sit down and do research. Like, one of them is like, what are your top 3 favorite traits of all time? And it's like, I don't know. I could list like 15 of them. Oh, they also excluded cash out traits. They're like, no cash out traits allowed. And I'm like, well, damn, man. So I have to like sit and research and really decide, like, is this my favorite trait of all time? And then the other one is the like, what champ designs didn't work out. And it's like, I'd have to go back and sit through like all the old champions and double check. Because like, I can pull a few off the top of my head, but it's such an interesting question. So yeah, I'll get to those. Okay, today's first question though. Why do units spawn in one by one before fights? This is that whole thing like when you're transitioning to someone's board and the units like appear. It's not quite one by one, but it's like in little groups of 3 or whatever for dramatic effect, and they appear. And it can be really annoying if you're like last minute trying to slam an item and you're like, why isn't the Garen appearing so I can slam the Warmogs on him? It can feel a little annoying. So this is a tough one because the original answer is, because when it was first being implemented, it created a sense of tension and it creates a nice feeling of like, all right, here they come. Okay, they're here. Now let's fight. Rah, it creates some nice visual tension. It creates some nice storytelling a little bit here. But obviously, to this person's point, it's like, well, that's dumb. I need to put my items on. So this is distracting and it's not the champion I want. So when approaching this kind of question, you have to really think through the repercussions of the assumption that you're wrong in order to make sure that you're on the right track. And what I mean by that is, I'm going to approach this problem right away under the assumption that the person asking the question is 100% correct, and this is a problem, and we need to change it. Now, whether or not that's true or not, we can figure out later. But let's think this through. What would have to change? Okay, now currently, when you transition to someone else's board, it takes, for that whole like effect to play where it's like, the units appear, it takes about 6 seconds, maybe a little less, maybe 5. It's about a 5 to 6 second thing that buys you a little extra time and allows you to, see that effect. Now, under the assumption that's a problem, well, your first reaction is, well, okay, we'll have them all appear at the same time. Okay, so if we do that, they all appear. We're not just going to stand there for 4 seconds. That's going to look weird. Now, a positive here would be actually what we should just do is fight, right? Like we could cut 4 seconds out of every transition period, which would make games on average close to 45 to a minute shorter, 45 seconds to a minute shorter, which is good, but does that actually solve the problem this person's talking about? Well, no, because if anything, now what'll happen is instead of having more time to like think about your item slams, fights are going to happen instantaneously. You're going to lose that 4 to 5 seconds where you're combining the item and merging it. So, is that worth it? Is the awkwardness of, I'm trying to slam this Warmogs on the Garen, but he's not quite appearing, worth it to trade to, okay, the Garen instantly appeared, but the fight already started, and now I have to slam the Garen mid-combat? Maybe? It's like debatable. My guess is no. If anything, players might feel like they're being rushed. But, so now, under that assumption, we have the trade-off, right? So, lose the visual tension of the appear, but gain for 45 seconds to a minute shorter games. But also, it's a little harder. You have a little less time to think about your moves. So, that's the pros and the cons. Now, when I look at that value trade, again, with every decision we make in TFT, we have to decide, is that where we want people spending time on? Do I want someone on design or engineering to spend their time cleaning that up to make that trade-off? Which if we do it, we might go, ooh, this is worse. Or do I want them working on, I don't know, matchmaking, And so that's generally why there hasn't been a lot of progress in this area. Is it because even when you think about it of like, well, what's the best thing you could do to fix it? It doesn't actually seem that much better. Now, unless you do something like much more crazy and direct where it's like, okay, after every transition, like, no, because then you're adding to the game. Like if you did something where it's like, imagine you saw this is a super exaggeratory and we couldn't do this, but imagine your 8 units in their current position, like jumped up, stayed right where they were, and you could like constantly see them moving. But that's just so much. And all that just to be able to slam items at the last minute? Nah. So overall, like I said, it's the kind of thing that alternative solutions don't actually seem that much better. And it's one of those things that really only bothers the like certain, the people it also bothers are the people that are like, for 1 or 2 rounds where I was slamming items and doing a big roll down, and I waited till the last possible minute to try to APM because I refused to do any of that during the PvE round because I didn't want to lose 1 gold econ. So yeah, the value trade just usually isn't there. If there was some magical better solution, I would definitely implement it because it is a mildly painful point for sure. But yeah, I don't have a better solve here. So that's kind of why. Probably not the answer you wanted to hear, but again, sometimes with these design problems, it really is just a question of the value trade-off, the gains you're making to the game, the actual problem you're solving, and the trade-off of like what else you could be working on. So I think that's where we're at with that. Now, is that to say we'll never do it? No, I actually could see a time in the next year or 2 where there's a window where we might improve this, but we'll see. So there you go. There's the answer. All right, this next question is my kryptonite. This person asks, do you have any workflow tips? Like ways to make good design docs or follow through on sprints or things like that. Now, like I said, when it comes to me being a professional game designer, these type of questions make me very weird in the industry, especially at Riot. When I worked at Nintendo, the way it worked was you had a milestone every month or 2, right? So it's like, hey, NCL, that's Nintendo Corporation Limited, that's what we called Nintendo Japan, basically. They're going to be here to visit to see how the game is going in 6 weeks. And so in that 6 weeks, what they want to see is World 1 complete and the menu system complete. So title screen into menu system into World 1, completely playable with 1 boss battle. That's your milestone. Okay. And then we just did it. Like, we didn't really use tracking software. If anything, between either my boss at the time or me, we just had like Word documents that were like, here's the list of things to do. How's it going? And you'd push towards it and get it done with that milestone approaching. And then we would show them that milestone and they would go, great, here's some feedback. Here's, your World 1.6 is kind of dumb. Pink blocks don't quite feel good, whatever. Boss fight's too hard, whatever. And now work your way towards milestone 2. And that was it. Well, then I get to Riot, and holy crap, it's like, after 11 years of doing it that way, it was like, okay, Well, now we have this JIRA and we've got sprints, and you need to know that the work you're doing is a 3-pointer or a 5-pointer or an 8-pointer, but there's no such thing as 7-pointers because whatever reason, and you shouldn't do dark work or what, like all these different business terms, and it's just like, I don't get it. How about I just make the thing? Because for me, doing a job is simply, you ask for a thing, I tell you it'll take this long, and then I do it. And if I was wrong in that estimate, I'll tell you. But usually I'm not, and I just do it. And if that requires a little extra effort to get it done, you do it. I don't know. And so I don't really fit in at Riot when it comes to this stuff. I don't need sprint planning and retros and whatever. It's more just tell Mort to do a thing, it'll get done, The closest, hilariously enough, during the Odyssey team development, we were working on Odyssey, we had a delivery lead, and every time he would try to set up our sprints and stuff like that, and he did it for the engineers because they really needed it. But for everyone else, I would just basically be like, here's where the game's at. We need this, 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 and this. Kevin, you do this. Jeff, you do this. And let me know how it is in 3 days, and we'll keep going, Like, that was it. I kind of acted as a production lead for that game mode, but very much not how Riot was used to, which was very weird. So the TLDR here is I don't have a lot of workflow tips because my workflow is ask to do thing, get it done ASAP, right? Like, you just have to have that self-drive to get it done. Now, the second part of your question, though, which is like how to make good design docs, this I can help with. I have made and seen a lot of different design docs over the years. And a lot of design docs get things wrong because there's one simple trick, and Sakurai kind of talks about this in his YouTube channel a little bit, but there's one simple trick to making a design doc good. And the idea is that you have to understand, what is the purpose of a design doc? Why are you making a design doc? And some people think it's like, oh, well, it's a Bible that people can read to understand the game. Nope. Nobody's going to read it. And even if they do, that's not how they're going to comprehend it. And nobody's going to want to sit here and read every technical detail about how your walking speed is this and your movement speed. Like, no, that's not a thing. Nobody needs this document. What a design document is for is to help other people understand what you're making, to get the vision in your head and to explain it to them so that they can get on board and answer simple questions. And so the way you do this is you tell a story. That's how I found. Okay? And the easiest way I have found to tell this story is the old problem solution system. So, for example, I'll just flat out tell you that the double up cannon was my idea, and I had to make a design doc for it. Okay? And so generally what you do is, so the start of the design document is it starts off and it says, hey, here's the goal. Before we even start what we're doing, here's what we're trying to accomplish. The thing we're trying to accomplish is double up is a mode that has been sitting in workshop for way too long. And so we would like to add some things to it that make it feel like it's no longer in workshop, but it's in full release. And in doing so, there's a couple key things we want to accomplish. We want to make it so that players interact with each other a little bit more, because over time we had removed things like item sharing and stuff like that. And we want to make sure that players are able to play in groups of friends, because right now we're finding that our audience, especially in certain regions, want to play with each other as more than two people. And there's no way to do that. And those are our primary goals. And you write that down in the document. So everyone's sort of like, okay, those goals sound correct. And then you're like, okay, how am I going to accomplish those goals? Well, the first thing we're going to do is we need a way for players to interact with each other more and a nice, clear visual indication of that. And so that's when you start outlining, okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to make this cannon. And then as you're like, okay, you propose this cannon, and you start thinking, well, what are the questions people are going to ask? Why does it take a bench slot? Well, write that in your document. Why does it take a bench slot? Well, because on mobile, unfortunately, if you look at the screen, there's nowhere else to put it. So we have to put it here. And it's clearer than a bunch of items that will fill up your bench. And part of that means you have to do some UX design where you're like, hey, in order to share items, I don't want to like place an item on a unit, then place a thing. You come up with the cleanest solve you've got, and it's like, hey, if I have this cannon, I can just put item on cannon. Boom, sent. And it creates a nice thing. So people, as they're going through this document, are sort of going, oh, okay, I get it. I see why he did that. Yeah, that makes sense. And that's all a design document is. It's a document so people can understand why you made the decisions you did and get on board with it. That's it. And so if you write it in that way, in the shortest, briefest, most succinct thing, that's all you need. And so I had made that document for Double Up. That got passed around. Everyone was like, yeah, makes sense. Looks good. And we start making it. And as we start making it, you get questions, right? Where it's like, hey, in your document, it doesn't really show how, what the cannon should say when you mouse over it. Good point. Let's write that real quick, And that's why that document doesn't need to have every detail up front. It just needs to get everyone aligned towards where we're going. And then everyone can solve the problems as we go. So that's my recommendation for writing a good design document, is tell the story of why you're doing it and how you're doing it. And the last thing is, this is always true of any work you do, is keep it simple. Again, whenever you write these documents, assume you're writing to somebody who has no idea about game design, no idea about the game itself. Write it in plain English. This is harsh to say, but it's the truth. I always write like I'm writing to an idiot, because if an idiot can understand it, everyone can understand it. So there you go. All right. I got time for one more question. Let's do a good one here. That means I only got through 3 questions today. God, I suck. How do you feel about this set's mechanic? Hacks. Now, the person who asked this question said how it felt like it was kind of a passive mechanic, and it was just kind of a little bit more. Yeah. So if you've noticed now, a couple sets, we've been doing what I would call improvements to a previous mechanic, right? Headliner was an improvement to Chosen. Anyone who says otherwise is lying. Now, you can not like Chosen, that's fine, but it was an improvement to Chosen. Hacks was just basically a fancy improvement to encounters. I think it took the good of encounters, which, by the way, were also a fancy improvement to galaxies, right? At their core, galaxies were simply a mutator on the way the game works. Now, you could argue that's what portals are, which they are, but essentially both portals and encounters are a mutator onto the core game. You are playing a core game of TFT, and then something happens, and now the game of TFT has been altered in some way, right? And so that's a pretty rich design space. And as you see, like set 11 had encounters that altered the game in ways that were, some were okay, and some were like, please don't ever alter the game like this again, please. I don't like this. Well, set 14 was sort of like, okay, now we understand a lot better what ways we can alter the game and not. So here's some different alterations. Things like the 1v2 augments, or different carousels, things like that. And even carousels, right? We had done hacked carousels in set 8.5. So essentially, this mechanic was simply a reuse of previous mechanics with improvements and learnings from previous sets. Now, sometimes during set development, teams might struggle, or we might not have a great idea, or we have an idea and then we take it to player labs and it doesn't test well, or we didn't set it up in the test right, or whatever, and everyone gets nervous. And, because when you're trying to innovate in the space, like I'll tell you, set 14's mechanic was not always hacks. There were other mechanics pitched. But, when you're a game that has this many players, there's always some nervousness about shipping a mechanic that's going to be the next shadow items. And so sometimes you get asked to, hey, maybe don't ship that mechanic. Maybe could you switch it to something else? And when you only have a few more months left because the first mechanic didn't work out, well, you have to switch it to a known good, And so set 14 hacks were basically, okay, previous mechanic didn't work out, so how about we do this, And I think there are parts of it I really, really like. Like, I think the 1v2 augment thing, chef's kiss. I think that turned out great. I think the split gold thing turned out pretty fun. Though we need to find a way to do split gold without just inflating everyone's resources by plus 6 to 10 gold every game, which isn't great. But the concept was really good. I think there's some learnings there that we'll take. I still think moving augment around. So we learned this in 11, and it showed in 14, that moving augments and adding a fourth augment is great, as long as it's always earlier. For those of you that didn't play set 11, we had games where you wouldn't get your first augment till like stage 4. Those were miserable. But like the games where you get all 3 augments in stage 2, kind of fun. So what I'll say is, I think, and it's kind of like my tier list, right? Where I put set 14 in B tier. It's like, it's acceptable. It's an acceptable mechanic because it took a known good, pushed it forward a little bit, but the bar for me personally isn't acceptable. The bar for me is great. And so do I wish we had come up with a more innovative mechanic? Yeah, I really do. But the 2 biggest problems in a TFT set development are the set mechanic and the cash out rate. Those 2 things require constant innovation with limited design space. So those are always going to be hard. And, there's going to be sets where it's like, let's try this weird thing. We tried it for 3 months. It was awful. So now what? Well, I guess we'll just bring back Legends. I don't know. It's a joke. That's not a real thing. But part of game development is part of shipping sets on time, part of being a live service game. Now, do I wish we magically had 3 amazing designers that could sit in a corner and just come up with set mechanics for weeks so that we had a backlog of amazing set mechanics? Yeah, I do. That's pretty hard to find. So we don't have that. So, yeah. TLDR, you asked how I feel about set 14's mechanic. Like I said, acceptable. Not amazing. Some good learnings. Some positive, really good stuff. 1v2 augments were great. Split was fun. But overall, this is it's fine. We can do better. So that's how I feel about set 14 mechanic. All right, we are hitting the 30-minute mark. I don't have time to jump into another question. We're hoping to hear back about Sephiroth tomorrow, hopefully. Fingers crossed. We're just kind of waiting for the phone to ring. So if we haven't heard back by Wednesday, I'll tell my wife to call and ask. But we'll see. Otherwise, family's sick. I'm going to go find something to do. I don't know what I want to do. This is one of my weaknesses, by the way, too. It's like, oh, I have a spare day or two. What do I want to start? Well, I don't want to start a 40-hour RPG because I won't be able to finish it. So I need a game that's like bite-sized and gives me enough to do. So, or I need a big project at the house to start, and like, oh, frame a bunch of pictures or whatever, you know. But also, whenever I tend to start a project, projects cost money, and so it's like, well, maybe I should just not spend some money for a while and save up, you know, make sure the kids got money. So, I don't know. I'll figure something out. First world problems for sure. But, yeah, I don't know. I'll figure something out. And this is where then the answer becomes, well, maybe I'll just go grind some ranked TFT. It's like, I've played this set enough. Playing more TFT is not going to further me. Maybe I should play something else, you know? So, don't think I'm hitting Challenger this set. Not that I need to. So, yeah. We'll see. Anyway, I'm going to go enjoy my break. I'll find something to do. You guys have a great week. I'll still be doing these every morning because even though I'm on vacation, health is still important, and that means walking for 40 minutes because that's still important. I don't get to just be lazy and eat nachos all day, which, man, that sounds fun. But, you know, what are you going to do? All right, that's going to do it for me. Until next time, take it easy.